Hey everybody, Prepper Nurse 1 here. Today is May 16th and it's a weird day. It was not supposed to rain at all, and it was raining pretty steadily earlier. And hello Saxy. Come on, you know you want to come up. So anyway, it was raining earlier and crazy weather. So today I had to take Eddie into Rochester. And Strong has a thing, they were doing a follow-up. 10 years ago he was part of a study for kids with autism, and things have changed a lot more kids with autism now than there were back then, so they wanted to do a follow-up and see where he was at now and all these type of things. So I agreed to be, you know, it's all voluntary, you can be part of the study or not be part of the study. And so we decided, you know, I talked to Eddie actually, and I said, would you like to do it? And he said yes, and so we went in there today and we did that. So I kind of want to talk about a little bit today, talk about autism in our educational system. And yeah, so when you have a child with autism, if he doesn't fit inside of a certain box of autism, then it's very difficult to find placement for him, someplace for him to go, and for him to be in the right setting, in the right place. But of course the schools can't say that we have no clue what we're going to do with your kid. So they try to bounce him around here, there, and the other thing, and they think that most parents are stupid and are going to follow along with whatever they say. And that's not always the case, obviously. I'm a very big advocate for my son, so I'm going to give you some examples of what happens with the educational system. Now my son has a tendency, because when he gets angry he acts out, okay? I mean, you guys probably really haven't seen that on video, but he is a reactor, so he like lashes out if he's upset. And you know, he needs to have somebody, when a one-on-one, that's going to be a solid person. It's not going to be mealy mouse. So he's had some women that he had as one-on-ones that were awesome. They worked with him very well. And then he had other ones that were not. And actually there's been people that quit over my son. So, yeah. So anyway, the school system doesn't know how to deal with certain kind of kids that, like I said, if they don't fit inside of a certain box of autism, they don't know how to deal with it. And so they ended up putting my son into a behavior program, which he was the only autistic kid in the entire program of the classes, and the rest were basically just little snot-nosed kids that didn't want to follow the rules and were a-holes basically. So what do you think he learns from that? Did he learn good behaviors, or did he learn more bad behaviors? Well, of course he learned more bad behaviors. And because they weren't dealing with his autism, they treated him like he was retarded and that he was stupid, and you know, that he was just another one of these brats, which was not the case. And so there was a lot of issues. I was at that school a lot, and I gave some choice words to the social worker. I'm going to give you one example of something that happened while we were there. We had a journal that we would go back, you know, I would write in the journal and send it to the school. They would write back every day, you know, and then I would sign that I read that what their entry was. So I get the journal home one day, and it said, Eddie refused to get off the computer today, so we let him stay on. Well, I was furious, absolutely furious. So I called the school and I got the social worker on the phone, and I asked her, I said, who's in charge over there? And she went, excuse me? I said, I would like to know who's in charge over there, because according to what I'm reading, my son is in charge. I said, this is ridiculous. I said, he refused to get off the computer, so you would let him stay on? You don't reward bad behavior. I said, how about unplugging the computer? You know, disconnecting it altogether. Now he can't get on it at all. You know, I was so freaking mad, and I really went nuts on this woman. And she didn't talk to me for like 3 weeks after that. I think she was afraid to. But it was ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing was ridiculous. So then we moved out here, and there was a BOCES program that we went and visited, and I thought it would be a good program for Eddie. And from the very beginning, the principal was like, yeah, well, I don't think this is a good fit for him. And I said, well, if you give him a chance, you're going to go through a transition period where he's going to be having some issues in the beginning, but once he settles in, he'll be fine. So he started there, and of the 6 weeks that he was actually technically in the program there. He was actually only in school for 2. They had suspended him the rest of the time. And what had happened was, he got a book, and they said, and he said to them, "This is not hard enough for me. I would like harder work." Well, they said, "No, this is what you're getting, period, that's it." Well, he flipped out, had a temper tantrum, okay? So they suspended him. Went back, he said, "Could I have a different book? I would like something different." And they're like, "Nope, that's it." Flipped out again, suspended again. So this went on like 4 times. And so my thought was, and when we had our big meeting about that whole thing, was why didn't you give him harder work? And if you can't do the harder work, then you say, okay, you can't do this work, now we'll have to go back and do this. But you give him that opportunity. But the system is so screwed up, if it's not inside that box, and well, this is the criteria, and this is what they have to do, they can't think outside that, okay? And again, they were, you know, it was ridiculous. So that particular school year, which was last school year, he ended up only going to school for a grand total of 2 months. Or not 2 months, I'm sorry, 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the whole school year. And then I got a call with 2 weeks left in the school year, and they said, "Oh, good news." And I said, "Okay." They said, "We got a tutor for your son." And I said, "Is this a joke?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "The school year's done in 2 weeks. What are you talking about?" And she was like, "Oh, we figured, you know, he could go to summer school and stuff like that." I said, "Absolutely not. He's not going to summer school." I said, you know, we can start with a new tutor in the fall, that'll be fine. So that's when Tom came into the picture, and that's Eddie's tutor, and he comes to the house and tutors Eddie. So that actually has worked out very, very well. But the thing is, realistically, and they keep giving me this song and dance, we're looking for a program to put your son in. They're not doing squat. If they really, truly wanted to do something, they would set up a program for kids with autism that is geared and taught by teachers that know autism. That's what they would be doing, but they don't. Because realistically, they could care less. And I tell them that, so that pisses them off all the time when I say that. I go, "You don't really give a crap." I said, you know, so basically I've already let them know that when my son turns 16, which will be in October, that he's going to be done. And they were like, "Well, he has to finish out the school year." I'm like, because you supposedly can't quit in the middle of the school year, which is BS, if he just stops going. I said, "Well, what happens if he just stops going?" "Oh, we'll call Child Protective on you." "Oh, okay, sure, great." So I said, "All right, well, so we'll go 1 more year. I really don't care." I mean, you know, and so, anyway, so going back to when he was in 7th grade, he criteria-wise passed nothing that year. Absolutely nothing, okay? But lo and behold, they moved him on to 8th grade. Wonderful system that we have there, right? It's a freaking joke. It really, really is. It's very upsetting as a parent with a child that has autism and you're not giving him the proper help that he needs. And now I do have to say that from kindergarten to 6th grade, he was in Hilton, New York, in a BOCES program there with an all autistic class. I think there was only 4 or 5 kids at max in the class at any one time. And the teachers were specialized in autism. They were absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, we had our issues, I'm not going to lie. There was issues, and I had to go in for meetings and stuff like that. But his teacher, she was very, very good. She was strict, and she knew how to deal with the kids. So, you know, that was really, really cool. But, you know, since that point, when he went from to 7th grade, it's just been a freaking disaster ever since. But the thing is, you're going to have these kids. They got more and more of them coming all the time. I mean, when Eddie was born, I think it was 1 in 168 kids had autism. And I think now it's down to like 1 in 35, something in those. That's what the numbers, I mean, it's like that much more now than when my son was born. So you're going to have a whole freaking bunch of these kids coming up. And they all don't fit inside a little box and make it easy. Oh, of course, and then we went to the thing with this. The school had said, "Well, have you ever thought about putting him on any kind of medication?" And I looked at the school people and I said, "Listen, I am not putting my son on medication to make your life easier." I said, "I don't have issues with him at home because he knows what the boundaries are, he knows what the discipline is, and he knows what his expectations are. So if my son can behave at home, he can behave at school too. They just needed to be more consistent." So that was all of that too. It was freaking crazy. I mean, it was just nuts. The whole thing was nuts. But anyway, our school system is failing these kids. Now, there's a lot of other kids that are falling through the cracks too, okay? I mean, a lot of other kids falling through the cracks. But I want to focus on the autistic kids because obviously I'm dealing with that every day of my life with my son. And I don't, I'm not doing a poor me and, oh, my poor son type of stuff. My son has his issues, and I absolutely know what they are. But the thing is, if they listen to the parents, if the schools listen to the parents and had things in place and things set up for this, where's the justice for these guys? What is he supposed to do when he's all done with school? He sure as hell ain't getting an education. He's not getting an education at all. I mean, my son taught himself to read at 3 years old. So, I mean, he can spell words better than most people can, okay? But there's things that he doesn't like, I mean, he don't care about social studies, so he's not going to do it. He doesn't really care for math that much. Now, he does some, but it's not his favorite thing. So, it's just, it's what we got to deal with. But the thing is, something more needs to be done for these kids. There needs to be a reckoning or a ramification for these schools for the failure of these kids, and the special ed program, we go to these freaking meetings and they're a freaking joke. They're a freaking joke, and I'm like, well, what are we doing for my kid? Well, we're looking. Well, I've been looking for almost 2 freaking years now. Next month is another year done of school. So you're going to tell me in 2 years they cannot find something that is within a reasonable distance too, because they wanted to ship them out for an hour-and-a-half bus ride one way, and I said, absolutely not, we're not doing. And that was in good weather, an hour-and-a-half ride in good weather. And I said, absolutely not, we're not doing that. And they were like, well, why not? And I said, because as soon as he has a temper tantrum in school, you are going to call me and ask me, or tell me that I need to come and pick him up. And I'm not driving an hour-and-a-half one way because you don't know how to handle my son. So, that was not going to happen. So they need to find something for these kids with reasonable expectations, all autistic teachers, all autistic class, so they can focus on not only just the academics, but work on the autism part of it as well. So we, like I said, Eddie and I went today to Rochester to do this follow-up, and so they ask a lot of questions and stuff like that, and they're seeing where he's at, intellectually and cognitively and all those other things as well. And, so that was pretty cool. We got to go one more time next week. And so I just thought, because of the fact that we were there today, I thought I would come home and I would do a video on that subject because I think it's a really interesting subject, and like I said, the school systems are horrible. And I'm not going to say which school district, obviously, but, I will say Greece. Greece school system absolutely sucks. As far as autism goes, they absolutely suck. When he was in kindergarten, he started out in Greece. And he was, again, suspended numerous times as a 5-year-old because they didn't want to deal with it. And so I got to tell you a wonderful story. I laughed so hard. But then I had to tell Eddie how bad it was that we don't do this. So they kept suspending him at 5, and they just didn't want to deal with it, is what it was. What it realistically came down to, they just did not want to deal with the fact that this kid had autism and had special needs, and that they needed to deal with it. So they kept suspending him. So the last time that they suspended him, my son was very upset that he was being suspended again. And so he dropped trow, and he urinated on the principal. Now, let me share something with you. My son has a unique skill where he can pee on demand, number one, and he can shoot a stream of pee 20 feet with absolutely no problem at all. I mean, he's just unbelievable, okay? So he dropped trow and urinated on the principal. Now, when I heard that, I laughed so freaking hard. Now, he wasn't there when I heard it, but I was thinking to myself, good for you, Eddie. But yeah, it was, so and then I had to say, listen, we don't urinate on people, that's not what we do, and the whole thing. But secretly, I was just, I thought that was freaking hilarious. But, so that's what happened. So anyway, guys, listen, thank you for listening to this today. I just wanted to kind of vent a little bit, talk about the school system, talk about how horrible it is for our autistic kids out there. And I know a lot of people that watch have autistic children as well, or everybody knows somebody that has an autistic kid nowadays. So, the system is ridiculous. Oh, and here's the best part. So they'll keep them in the school system till they're 21 if you let them. And then as soon as they turn 21, it's like, screw you and good luck. That's how it works too. I've seen it before. I took care of kids that had problems, and that's exactly what they did, and they could care less. So that's always fun. So anyway, so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Listen, guys, I hope everybody has a great day. Remember, hug and kiss the ones you love. Tell them every day. Very important. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. And remember, STD, it's one step at a time, one thing at a time, and one day at a time. And whatever it is, dealing with autism, dealing with a job, dealing with, you know, reaching whatever your goals are, you can do it. You just have to work through it methodically, you know, if you want to, obviously. If you're not happy with your situation, change your situation, you know. You have to do that sometimes. You know, it's about, life is too short not to be happy. It really, truly is. So anyway, I am going to jump off of here. I hope everybody's doing fantastically, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Prepper Nurse 1 out for now.